Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Estamos aquí en el Club Victoria Eugenia, un sótano, estamos refugiados, pero hoy más que nunca yo tengo la sensación de que estamos en una torre de Babel absoluta, ¿no? Tenemos películas de Suiza, Francia, Chile, Argentina, Austria. Vamos a hablar muchísimos idiomas, vamos a hablar en español, en francés, en inglés, en alemán, pero yo creo que nos vamos a poder entender porque todos los equipos que tenemos hoy aquí hablan un lenguaje común, que es el lenguaje común del cine. Pero para que esto fluya un poquito más, tenemos que recibir, para que fluya un poco la comunicación, tenemos que recibir a todos los invitados que tenemos hoy aquí con un fortísimo aplauso. Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Bueno, pues nuestra primera película de hoy es una película que se presenta en la sección Nuevos Directores. Ella es la nueva directora, que se llama Marialí Rivas. Ella es la productora Fernanda del Nido, que presentan la película, la producción chilena, bueno, coproducción también con España, porque ella es la productora española, la coproducción entre Chile y España, Princesita. Marialí, una película que no sé si parte de hechos reales, una película que se centra en una secta de tipo religioso, que no sé si parte de hechos reales o es un compendio de diferentes historias que fuiste escuchando hace unos años.
Bueno, gracias por invitarnos.
Gracias,
efectivamente, parte de hechos reales. Yo leí una noticia el 2012 de una secta familiar que estaba conformada por puros hombres y tenía en su centro una niña que ellos decían que era la encargada de traer el nuevo Mesías para que no se acabara el mundo. Ese es el inicio de la idea.
Y a partir de ahí hiciste una investigación o como te fuiste documentando, entraste en me imagino, en este mundo que me imagino bastante críptico y bastante cerrado, que son el de las sectas.
La verdad es que lo que me llamó la atención es que para mí ejemplificaba un poco la historia de lo femenino, donde siempre la narrativa es una cosmovisión desde lo masculino y la mujer es solo un vehículo de los objetivos de los hombres. Entonces me pareció que ejemplificaba un poco la historia de todas las mujeres. Porque para mí igual, si bien las sectas son particulares, creo que las religiones son sectas que les fue bien nomás y se hicieron más populares. Entonces, en vez de tener 15 seguidores, tienen 10 millones de seguidores o 1000 millones, pero reside lo mismo en el centro, que es como hacer un relato del mundo desde una visión de un puñado de hombres o de un solo hombre.
La princesita, que da título a la película, es una niña que ya entra en la adolescencia, que es la elegida, que vive en un ambiente aparentemente bucólico y que de repente pues, empieza a descubrir que quizás las cosas no son como creía que eran. Vamos a verlo.
Ellos están atrapados en la ignorancia. No son capaces de ver la belleza de las cosas. Yo tengo tanta suerte. Aprendí a apreciar lo que es verdadero.
Tu profesora tiene dudas sobre ti. Dice que tus inquietudes sexuales no corresponden a tu edad.
Yo no tengo dudas sobre la
Esto no se trata ni de ti ni de mí. ¿Tú crees que haga lo que haga va a seguir siendo la elegida?
Bueno, pues ahí veíamos algunas imágenes de la película. Lo que llama muchísimo la atención es el ambiente bastante bucólico, ¿no? Sobre todo al principio de la película y aquí justo en esta especie como de teaser o de tráiler se define como un cuento de hadas. No sé si has querido buscar también ese ambiente como de cuento en el que de repente aparece el lobo feroz, ¿no?
Tale, and then there's the wolf appearing at the end. Yes, originally, her tales were very hard. When the Andersons took these tales to the United States, they were softened, but in fact, in the prince used to rape the princesses, and they are teenagers, lost teenagers, and they're waiting for the prince to save them. But normally, children's tales and stories were there to warn them. Little Red Hood is the story of a sexual predator. That's why we have this narrative about the sexual predators. Talking about the production, you took part in Cinema in Construction. How was the production of this movie, and what? The Larraín brothers are the producers. They are really a guarantee of quality. Yes, the general producers are the Larraín brothers. When they started to develop this idea, well, I was following Maria Lee's films, and I was interested as a director. And of course, I wanted to work with Larraín brothers. And Juan de Dios invited me to participate. And then there was their staff in Argentina, and we've been working together since the beginning in this project. For all of us, it was important to participate in the section Cinema in Construction here. It was a fantastic moment. Mariali can speak about her experience, about the content for her, sharing the cutting, and it was very important to be there. It was a turning point for us. It took us to the work that we are presenting today. I'd like to ask you about the protagonist, the lead role. Did she have any experience? Without her, the film would have been impossible. In Chile, we don't have a cinema industry. There are no children actors. We normally try to do castings with children doing theater, but this girl had made a video clip and she did the casting and she earned the role. And with Maria Laura Bert, she teaches tools to separate the characters from the children themselves. The biography, how do you feel? It's in order to teach children to separate what they do in cinema, their character and their real person. There are many trust games. They have to trust the people in the movie. And Sarah had to understand that her life was very good, but other little children in the world were not that lucky. So she was very proud to be the part in this film. Thank you very much for the new directors section. We always say it, but in the new directors section, we had to change the title because, in fact, you're not new, and I suppose you have a career behind you already. Let's meet in the future with more films. Thank you. From Chile, we go to Switzerland. But the subject doesn't change too much because the protagonists of our next film are also teenagers. Thank you very much. It's the team of Blue My Mind, a Swiss film that is in the new directors section. The director, Lisa Brunman. Two women directors, that's very good news. Lisa, I'm frightened. I'm a little worried about talking about this film because I don't want to tell too much about the plot. Because the plot has a development and I cannot just sum up and I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to spoil it. But this film, it's about teenagers. It's about a high school, and in this realistic environment, you are introducing little by little a mythological element, a fantasy element. Why did you decide to mix the reality and fantasy?
Yes, I talk in English. It's okay. Yes, this. It's a metaphor. You're right. We cannot discuss it now openly because we would spoil the plot. But it's a metaphor, and I've always been very fascinated by methodological figures because I think they stand for something, for needs, for wishes or dreams in ourselves, for humans. And so I just thought it's a really nice metaphor to put this in a coming-of-age story.
The film is about a teenager feeling the changes of adolescence. You are very young. You too are very young. I don't know if even the description of this adolescence, in the description of relations between characters, did you use your own experiences as teenagers?
Yes, I mean, first of all, Mia is a fictional character, but of course, if you're writing your first feature, it's not far to seek what you have experienced in your own past. And yes, when I was a teenager, I mean, Mia, that's actually Luna Wedler. She plays the main character. And this character feels lonely, a lot of shame, very introverted, but very angry. And I think a lot of women in that age feel the same. And it often leads to being self-aggressive. Women often tend to be self-aggressive. So, and this I know very well of when I was young. And I wanted to tell something about these feelings, you know, and a path out of these feelings, where you become a woman and free yourself from that.
Como decías, Luna es la protagonista.
Luna is the main character.
Es la protagonista.
She's the protagonist of the film. I don't know if you had a previous experience, and I'd like you to know to tell us what was your experience acting as this teenager, going through normal changes in adolescence, but very other changes that are not that typical.
Okay. Also,
Can you repeat it?
yes, please, because
Could you quick
No.
repeat?
Yes.
sorry.
No, ¿cómo ha sido la experiencia?
How was your experience in this film? Did you have previous experience as an actress? How was your experience? And
Yes. Okay. Well, I did other movies before, but that was like the first main, and especially, I never went so deep into to a role, and it was hard sometimes. Or yes, it was hard and intense, but it was also such a nice, you know, how do you say, reise, travel through her, and yes, yeah, well, yeah.
Solo quería preguntarte por una. Yeah, you can speak German if you want.
Okay, yeah, well.
No, yo quería preguntarle por una escena en
would like to
particular.
ask you about the fish, the scene with the fish and the fish bowl.
Yes. The real fish.
No, in the fish tank.
Oh, well,
Fish tank.
it's a real fish. It's not. It's like silly, was you see. Gummy bears, but it wasn't nice, but it was like gummy, something like that, yeah.
Bueno, la historia, para los que no se hayan visto la película, es que come un pez. Vamos a
She
dejarlo ahí,
eats a fish. That's the summary. And then this character. What about the other two actresses? It's about teenagers, and parents have a role there in the background. But that place is quite horrific because they see the changes in their daughter. What about the role of the parents? Talk about the other roles, please.
Ich denke, das ist nicht schwer für
I think it's
Eltern,
not difficult
das nachzuvollziehen, dass
for
in
those
der
who have
Pubertät
children.
nicht immer so einfach ist mit den
It's
Kindern.
not difficult to understand the problems that this mother has with her daughter. We've always had problems with our teenagers. This
Die sie aber
conflict,
liebt. Das war für mich
in
nicht so
fact,
schwer
where she doesn't
nachzuvollziehen, weil
understand
ich
her
selber
daughter
3
because
Kinder habe und
she
eine
loves her,
davon schon
but she
oder 2
doesn't
in der
understand her.
Pubertät
It wasn't difficult for me because I have 3
Und
children
dieses-
and 2 of them
Die
are
Mutter ist sehr
teenagers.
hart in dem
So
Film
I know the conflicts.
und ist
The
sehr-
mom
hält
is
sehr
very
in sich
hard in the
alles und
film.
ist sehr diszipliniert und streng.
And
Aber
she
eigentlich
takes
hat sie diesen
everything
Wunsch
very
nach
seriously.
Freiheit wie die Tochter auch.
She is a very disciplined
Das war das
person.
Spannende für mich.
But in fact, she has a wish to be free, and that is reflected in her daughter.
La experiencia en la película.
How was your experience in the film?
Was ist die Frage genau?
Wie der Film erlebt hast, der Film.
Also die Dreharbeiten waren sehr, sehr spannend. Mit der Lisa
The
und
shooting
der Luna
was
speziell.
very exciting for me, and the
Lisa hat
relationship
sehr
with Luna,
intensiv mit uns
that was really
gearbeitet.
interesting. We've worked together in a
viele
very
Sachen auch
intense way,
umgeschrieben, sie hat uns
very
sehr
close,
viel
and we
Freiheit
changed
auch gegeben,
some of the things in the
unsere
script
Inputs auch dazu reinzugeben.
because we were given
Und,
freedom
die
to
Luna, die
change
kenne
and
ich
to
auch schon
give
sehr lange
suggestions
und
to
hat mir sehr
change the
viel Spaß
script.
gemacht, mit ihr
I know Luna for a
zusammenzuarbeiten.
long time, and I just love to work with
Und meine
her. It
Rolle
was fun.
ist sehr,
My role,
hat
my
mir sehr
part,
Spaß gemacht,
my
weil sie hat auch
character
eine sehr schöne
was very good
Transformation,
because
weil sie am
this
Anfang
girl is
diese Maske
going
trägt
through a very
und sich
beautiful
nicht getraut,
transformation
ihr
at the
wahres
beginning. She
Ich
wears a
wirklich zu
mask
zeigen.
and she
Und
doesn't
dadurch, wo sie dann Mia
show as she
kennenlernt,
is.
kann sie
She
endlich
doesn't
sich
dare.
selber
And then
sein.
she
Und
meets
ja,
Mia
diese
and she little by
Entwicklung
little
durchzumachen mit
learns
der
to be
Figur,
herself.
war sehr spannend und
showed this transformation through the part. That was fantastic for me. And the other one is the bad girl. What type of contributions did you give to the script? What were your changes or suggestions to the script?
Ich habe nicht wirklich, also inhaltlich Sachen geändert, das sicher nicht.
I didn't change anything in the content, because I wouldn't dare to change anything or to suggest anything. It was more related to with our relationship, the way we had our relationship, the more authentic parts in the dialogues. We are young people and we know the language of teenagers more than the director, so we proposed changes in words. So we wanted to express ourselves with our own language. That's what we proposed. So you're a bit too old. You're too old. Thank you very much for this moment. I've been quite critical with regard to the plot. I cannot spoil it. That's why we can't speak too much. Thank you very much, and be lucky with this film. Let's change now. Different style. Third stop today is Calipatria, or Calipatria, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a short film in Zabaltegi's section. The directors, Gerard Tremi and Leo Calice. I think it's an original film. It's short of 8 minutes with a fixed shot, but the landscape is fundamental. It's a narrative challenge, a plastic challenge as a film. Where does it come from, this idea, this short film? Because I have the impression that this short film is the result of all your joint previous work.
Yes, well, to give a short introduction to our production that is called On LSD, or ONLSD, meaning the Office for Narrative Landscape Design. And it plays a little bit with the idea of a drug to being on LSD, because our approach was to realize that understanding and experiencing landscapes are very strongly influenced by the stories they figure in, which is very strongly the case, especially in movies. And we had this experience in the Californian desert when we first visited it, that we had this extreme impact of a déjà vu, like we've been here before, even though this was never the case. And it was not only that, but also this feeling of it being something that is really close to us, like a place that is part of our identity, kind of like home. And we shared this experience without knowing that it was happening to each other. And then we shared this and we were talking and thinking this was really strange for us to experience the same impact. So we proposed a research project and claimed that, that the experience of landscapes is bound to stories, and that we could actually use stories to interpret landscapes and create experiences that are bound to these stories. So this was like the frame. So we got good funding for that, and we went back to the desert and started to do research on a landscape icon, which is the Californian desert as it connects to the Wild West and to the New Frontier and to Gold Rush and to road movies and a large scope of Hollywood history and film history. But we were interested in reinterpreting it by the people who actually live there. So we did a movie, short movies, after we had interviewed people who live there and showed the meaning of the deserts within their stories. And we portrayed the deserts on that basis in a series of short films, which we presented previously in the past years as a compendium of short stories entitled Eden's Edge. And that actually attracted a lot of interest in this approach, because it is also not only about portraying, but developing film as a tool for landscape interpretation, which is kind of shifting it away from the screen, even though we use the screen for documentation, but we actually want to apply it. And our first application that we wanted to present is within a desert prison, to change the situation of a prisoner who is there for a lifetime by his own story and attract one of a significant experience of a landscape within his history to the prison garden, and translate the meaning of something that is significant to him in another landscape into the prison. And I don't want to reveal how this happens, because we designed the narrative so that could happen within this short story.
Bueno, este es el planteamiento. Vamos a ver
So this is the approach. Let's see some pictures.
It all started with a newspaper ad from a guy looking for a hand in Alaska. What's in Alaska? My girlfriend asked. Why go there? She asked as if I'd known. It's a bit hard to explain.
Ahí estaba la prisión que comentaba
The
él.
prison,
La historia es real.
the story is real.
La historia real es una
It's a real story.
que conocisteis vosotros en esta
You knew this story through the interviews.
Well, actually, we met this guy during the production of our last movie series, but we didn't then make a movie about him on different reasons. And now, as we got the chance to be part of Ikusmira Beriak last year, we decided that we make a movie out of his story too. Yeah.
But it had a criminal content, as he was going up to Alaska and was part of a gold search team. He got into trouble and didn't know that that was going to happen. So he was more or less entering a story without knowing that he was part of a criminal story. He was just a helper there. And then he got involved, and it took an ill turn, and it didn't go as bad as we used it. We manipulated it so we could put him into the prison. So it's we use a real story, and then we exaggerated it for the purpose that we were directed towards.
You said that you were in Ikusmira Berriak. How was your experience there? How about this experience? How important has been Ikusmira Berriak for you for this film?
Well, it was vital. I stayed here. I got time and space and a little bit of money to work here in Tabacalera, which was really great. And I actually built the landscape model here. And so the whole thing you see is like little parts of San Sebastian put together to...
Cualquiera lo diría.
Calipatia, yeah.
Bueno, pues muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much indeed. Zabaltegui is a section that shows different and original films, and Calipatria is one of the best examples. And as you know, to develop this here in Tabacalera, there's a great initiative in which the festival participates. Thank you very much for being here. Good luck.
Thank you. Bueno, empezamos en Chile y nos hemos trasladado
Started in Chile, and now we go to Argentina. Another movie in the new directors section. The title is Tiger, but it's not an animal. It's the Tiger Delta in Argentina. Yeah. You're okay, Ulises? He's the director, one of the directors of this movie, Ulises Porra, and the co-director is not here. And these other people are the producers. Watching your movie, in fact, last year I was there in the Delta of the Tiger in Buenos Aires, and I said, oh, it's a fantastic place to shoot a movie. And months later, I realized this is the title of your movie. I don't know if this happened to you, that this Delta is very close to Buenos Aires, but if you don't know it, it's very wild. A great personality, this area of the Delta. Was it the landscape that took you to the idea of making this movie? Hello, good morning, everybody.
Sí,
Yes.
La idea de la película le surgió a
This
Silvina.
idea was Silvina's idea when she traveled there. She stayed 1 month in El Tigre in a house. And as you said, it's a specific place where you have new ideas, sensations, feelings, and she started to write short stories because of the place where she was, because of this landscape. And little by little, this was transformed into a whole script. But it's a very suggestive place, this delta. It's full of islands. Rivers, it's brown water, you can't see the bottom, and there are many tides, and suddenly the islands are covered by the water, and the houses are on wood supports. Let's see some pictures.
Vos decís que esta gente te puede sacar la isla. Lo importante es que encuentren la casa habitada. Además, yo tengo a mi hijo. Pero si estamos acá no nos pueden echar, ¿o no? Te juro no sé. ¿Qué hacemos de tu vida?
We were talking about landscapes, and here the landscape as a character. There's a group of people, and it's about family, the past and the future, of family links. There's a great tension there. Yes. We were interested in this delta because it's close to Buenos Aires, but it's so big. So when you go further, the place is very wild. It's difficult to think that 2 hours ago you were in Buenos Aires. You are 2 hours ago just by boat. So we wanted to put a series of people in a house, and most of them are not from there. Or they were from that region, but they left a long time ago. There's a feeling of isolation, being alone. You're far from your daily life, and you have to live with other people. That was the basis of the story. Each character tells his or her story in relation to the others and what are the problems that arise in the coexistence. The past. That's basic in the movie because the main conflict is about the mother and her son. It is based on a past situation that they couldn't solve. From the production point of view, I suppose this is a nightmare. Did you say no, please, not more in that place? Do something different, but it's too hard to shoot there. Well, Barbara, yes, we said it. It's a nightmare. And by luck. Luckily, he didn't change anything. We wanted to shoot interiors in the city, but in fact we didn't do it. It would have been a mistake. We went there. Well, that was a great experience to live for 4 to 5 weeks in that place with a team. We lived in the same conditions as the characters, in houses full of water. It was so difficult to have food. It was a hard experience. You can go there to live in one of those houses, or you can go there for a nice weekend. But you never go to work in that type of place because you had a timetable, you had teams working there. It's quite slow because the shooting plan was depending on what the landscape allowed us to do. There was many tides, much water. Sometimes we didn't have enough water to use the boat. And the technical staff and the actors, they did a lot to have a good stay there. We chose the most isolated house for that. We didn't have many other options. But there was more tension because this house was very far away. We were very far away, so that more problems could appear. Ulises, apart from the family tension, there's an ecological underlying argument there. What about living in nature? Well, El Tigre is so big, it's huge. The delta is immense. But in the first section of the delta, we had to cross it, and we went very far away to shoot. But there are problems there. There are closed districts that are being built in the delta. These districts are condos for very rich people. They totally closed. And they changed the delta geography. Places that were not covered by water in the past, now they're covered by water. The tides are changed because of the construction. This doesn't only happen in the delta. The problem in Argentina is quite important. This is the way of showing that very healthy people, very wealthy people, live in condos that are completely closed, and this causes problems in nature. You are Catalan, but you live in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. You have a very Spanish accent. Well, I've been transformed. I'm not an Argentinian anymore. Once I lived in Mexico, and I came back speaking Catalan with a Mexican accent. It's horrible. But I live in Buenos Aires since, well, for 8 years now. Argentina is an incredible country. It's beautiful for shooting films. There's a lot of people working on cinema, living out of it, technicians, professionals, and very good people to work with. How was the experience as a co-director? Did you work together? First, she's my wife. We are married. And she is pregnant at the moment, and she couldn't come. She is more than 8 months pregnant. So we are very much used to live together. It could be a disaster to work with your wife in a movie, but in our case it was very pleasant. We prepared the script together, and we've discussed a lot, and I think everything was already set when we decided to start shooting. We are a single head for the shooting and for the script. I think it was okay working together as a couple. Say hello to Silvina, even though she's not here. Very good luck with the movie. I always say it, but it's from the bottom of my heart. Now we go back to the first table with different people. Xavier, thank you for being here. Lea, I didn't say hello to you, but now here we are. Our fifth film today is entitled Jusqu'à la garde, in custody by Xavier Legrand, and she is Lea Drucker. And you are Thomas Gloria, one of the actors of the movie. He just came from Venice. He had a prize for the best director in Venice Festival, and the best award for the first long film, feature film. So fantastic prizes. You speak about a really hard subject. Bad treatment in the couple and domestic violence and violence against women. Xavier, you directed a short film about this topic. Why did you wanted to speak about this same subject again in your feature film? Well, I'm not coming back to this subject. It's a continuity of my project. When I wanted to work on this topic, on this subject, I wanted to make a trilogy, 3 short films. The first, Avant que de tout perdre, just before losing everything in English, tells the story of this woman. She decides to flee from violence, She goes away. In one day, she goes to her office in order to be protected and to flee from this violence. The next stage, what happens after this escape? When I did this short movie, I realized that the time was good for telling this story in one day, but it was too short to go deeper into the story. So for the other two short films, I decided to make a feature film. So I finished my project, 3 films about domestic violence, a long and a short one. This movie has elements of a social movie, but there are codes of a thriller or a suspense film. Why did you use the methods of suspense filmmaking? Because there's a crescendo, a narrative crescendo. It's terrible. The tension is all over the place. Did you use any references for this movie? Yes, of course. We wanted to start from a social problem and make a genre film. If I stayed in the social layer, it would be a documentary. For me, it was more interesting to find a new genre, to go towards from a thriller to the horror film. Almost. Because this movie starts with a judge taking a decision about a divorce and decide about the life of the child. And this decision by the judge, her decision can bring the people to a horror situation. So I start my movie with this first shot in the judge's office when she takes that decision about the couple and the child. And at the end, there's this tub and the horror. So for me, my references are Kramer against Kramer and The Shining. You spoke about the first scene of the film. It's quite impacting because it's very, very hard.
Voilà ce qu'a dit Julien. Julien a 11 ans, il est en 6e A1 au collège Théodore Monod de Saint-Dumont et il a dit « Mes parents sont séparés depuis 1 an, je vis maintenant ici avec maman et ma sœur. On va fêter les 18 ans de ma sœur à la salle des fêtes de Viale. On habite tous là-bas chez papy et Nani, sauf mon père. Par contre, je ne peux jamais jouer devant la maison ou dans le jardin, car on a peur que l'autre vienne. Papy se met à crier quand il le voit et c'est pas bon pour sa santé. Quand il vient, je m'inquiète pour maman, parce qu'il veut juste lui faire du mal, juste ça, c'est pas un père, et c'est pour ça que je suis contente que mes parents divorcent. »
That's the beginning. It's quite cold. The judge is very cold when reading that. Is this true? Does this type of meetings with the court people, with the judge, this is real? Yes, of course, it's real. I followed a judge for various days, several days, and they do that. The judge is there to put people in the right place. And she's impartial, and she makes a decision about the divorce. It's quite radical. It's quite hard, and people are fragile. People are there. Separations, divorces can be of mutual agreement or not, but it's very difficult for them. It was glacial. In fact, it was so cold. And Leah is the monster's wife. She's already worked with Xavier. Leah, your character is on the second phase, on the second stage, because she's rebelled. She's escaped her husband in the first part of the film of the trilogy. But you are transmitting and conveying fright and fear. Yes, I followed the script, and the situations in the script were very, very strong. It wasn't the case in the short movie where I was in the action, survival, escape. And here, how can I protect my son in the best way possible? How can I reconstruct my life and start from scratch again? My goal was that. It's an attempt to reconstruct myself in an environment which is impossible. You cannot reconstruct yourself with this fear every day. At the same time, you need to go forward, and I felt the situations, and Thomas was there, and Thomas was my partner in all scenes, and that was a unique experience, and exceptional. It was the first time that I had to do very dramatic scenes, but I was accompanied by Thomas. He was very young, and we did it together. I wasn't obsessed by the preparation of my part. I just flowed with the script, with Thomas, with Denny, and he's very powerful. He's troubling because it's very human, in fact. My idea of the monster is quite deranging. It's not about the monster, it's the man inside. It's very tragical because the person cannot repress the violence, and I was interested in that. And that were Xavier's objectives as a director. Thomas, how was the work in this movie? Because you are frightened during the film. What are the tips that you used to convey so much fear? It was my first movie. It was very difficult because I didn't know anything about cinema, but with time, in fact, I got very, very quickly into the acting of Denis and Leah, and it was easier for me to show my feelings. And fear was there too. Xavier, Thomas was one of the key figures of this movie. How did you direct Thomas? Well, there was a coach. It's important to say it. It was his first movie, and we have to be very attentive. And we wanted him to feel comfortable, and it requires a lot of attention. I couldn't just be with him because I had other actors around me. So this is the technical part of the coach. But to work on this part, I didn't have the impression that I had to do a lot for Thomas. It was normal work. And I addressed him as an actor. As we worked in a very fluid way. It was quite easy. We met a long time ago, before on various occasions before the shooting. I wanted him to tell me what was his story with his parents, to build an imaginary. How was your life with your parents? And we went situation by situation. I like to direct in a technical way, and I say louder or speak faster or use the silence. I just remove the psychological part because we talk about that before the shooting. And during the shooting, you have to forget about psychology. Don't look for psychological reasons. Otherwise, it's not very natural. So I had the impression to work with a real and very good actor indeed. The experience has been good to you. Do you want to do that again? To do movies? Of course, I want. I hope to continue and become an actor, but it's going to be difficult. But that's my wish. And good luck to me. Thank you very much to the three of you. It's quite a risky movie, and it puts the light on one of the subjects of our times. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the teams present here, and maybe tomorrow we can meet at the same hour. Thank you.